we're going to be taking a look at how to make your minor pentatonic scale work over a dominant chord. The big issue is that the dominant chord isn't a minor chord, but we use it in blues and we end up using minor sounds like the pentatonic and the blues scale over it. So we're going to take a look at how to make this fit in and also which notes to stay away from. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to take a look at making a scale that doesn't have all the same notes as the chord you're playing it over fit. That's essentially what happens. A lot of people, when you play a blues or any kind of like dominant chord kind of rhythm, they think, well, I can play an A blues or an A minor pentatonic scale over that and it's going to work. But the problem is it doesn't entirely work. We have a chord that has A, which is the root, C sharp, which is the major third, E, which is the fifth, and G, which is the minor seventh. Those are the notes that together make up an A7 chord. But then you have a scale that has A, good common note, C natural, not the same as playing C sharp, and when you play them together, you get that kind of sound. D natural, once again we get that kind of sound. All right, and then you've got E, which is the fifth, and then you've got G, which is the seventh. So the scale mostly fits over that A7, except for in this little zone where the chord itself has the C sharp, and the scale has the notes on either side. So I've got this little loop here that I'm going to play. All right, it's just an A7 chord. So it's like that sort of deal. I'm just using a 7th chord voicing. So I have the C sharp in the rhythm. Now if I play the root, sounds good. If I play that minor third, not so great. If I play the fourth, not so great. That fifth, okay, that relaxes, that's okay. And then the G sounds pretty good too. But in this part of it, this is the note we actually want to hear. So when you play a line, you go, and wonder why it doesn't sound good, and that doesn't exactly sound that great either. The trick here is you take that minor third, this guy right here, the C or the 5th fret on the 3rd string, and you give it a quarter step bend. Suddenly it fits because the ear hears that as potentially being the right note. And that gives a little bit of that like bluesy or sassiness that you want to hear out of your line. We've also got this other one I've got written down for you guys. Right, so in this area is the 5th, the 7th, the root. All those guys work together over this chord, but that's your minor third, so that's the one you want to tweak a little bit. Alright, suddenly you can kind of see I'm building phrases that make sense. If I go, that doesn't sound like it resolves, so it's a good question. I can go, and then answer it. Alright, you have to use your ears and see what this stuff says over the top of the chord. And then if you're playing over a 12-bar blues, the chords are going to change as well, and that's going to pose other issues. You can't do this over the 4 chord because then you're trying to play a note that doesn't exist in the 4 chord. And that's a whole nother story. But for this week, all we're really trying to do is getting you understanding that you can actually fit this minor pentatonic scale over this A7 chord.